Ladies and gentlemen, let's keep it real. There's nothing more confusing than a man who disappears and then pops back up like nothing ever happened. 1 minute, he's gone. No calls, no texts, no hey, how you doing? Just silence. Cold, hard silence. And just when you finally start healing, just when you stop checking your phone, every 5 minutes, boom, he's back. Talking about, I've been thinking about you, or I miss us. Now listen, this ain't just some sweet reunion story. This is where you've got to ask yourself, why now? Why does he come back when you've stopped reaching out? Why does he remember your name when you've started forgetting his? You see, there's a reason for this madness, and it's not always what you want to hear. Sometimes it's love. Sometimes it's regret. But a lot of the time, it's ego, it's control, it's comfort. That's why you need to watch this whole thing. Because if you don't understand the real reason behind that unexpected, hey stranger, text, you might open your heart to a man who's only circling back because he sees your peace and wants a piece of it. So, before you reply, before you fall back in, you need the truth. Let's break it down, 6 powerful reasons why a man disappears and then comes crawling back. He thought the grass was greener, but it was just astroturf. That right there is the truth a lot of men face, but don't always admit. See, sometimes when a man walks away from a woman who truly loves him, he's not necessarily walking away because he's unhappy. He's walking away because he's curious. Curious about what else is out there. Curious about whether someone else could offer more. Make him feel more alive, stroke his ego better, or just give him something different. But here's the thing. Different doesn't always mean better. What a lot of people find out the hard way is that what looks good on the outside ain't always good on the inside. That new attention might seem exciting. That new face might be shiny. But eventually, the excitement fades. The sparkle wears off. And when that happens, reality steps in. And that's when it hits him, he walked away from real for something fake. He traded gold for glitter. He left substance for surface. Now he's standing there looking at what he chose, comparing it to what he had. And the more he thinks about it, the more he realizes just how much he messed up. Because see, when you were in his life, you didn't just give him love. You gave him comfort. You gave him loyalty. You understood his moods, his silence, his fears. You knew how to hold him down without holding him back. But he didn't see that clearly at the time because he was distracted by the illusion of more. This happens way more than you think. Some men don't even realize how rare your kind of love is until they go out and try to replace it. But they can't. They find out quick that it's not easy to find a woman who's soft yet strong, who can check you with respect, who loves deeply but won't be played, who gives peace, not drama. And when that realization hits, that's when you hear from him again. That hey text, that's not random. That's the sound of regret knocking. That's him hoping maybe, just maybe, you'll still be there. He might try to play it cool, acting like he just wants to see how you've been. But let me tell you, he's been watching, he's been thinking, he's been comparing. And the grass he thought was greener, that was fake grass. It didn't grow. It didn't feel real. It didn't give him what you gave him. Now, this part is important. Just because he wants to come back doesn't mean he deserves to. Just because he realized your value now doesn't mean he gets to reclaim you. Some people don't deserve a second chance just because they finally opened their eyes. Sometimes the lesson is in the loss. He needed to lose you to learn. He needed to be without you to understand what you were really worth. That's not your burden to carry. It's his cross to bear. So if you ever find yourself getting that text, that call, That sudden, I miss you, moment after weeks or months of silence. Pause. Ask yourself, is this a man who truly realized his mistake and has changed? Or is this just someone who ran into disappointment, remembered your worth, and came crawling back not because of love, but because of comfort? There's nothing wrong with forgiving someone who truly grows, but don't confuse regret with repentance. Regret says, I feel bad I lost you. Repentance says, I changed so I don't lose you again. Big difference. At the end of the day, you have to love yourself enough to not be anyone's backup plan. You're not a second option. You're not something a man should circle back to after his exploration fails. You are the main event, the prize, the blessing. So if he walked away to find better, let him keep searching. Because sometimes losing you is the very thing he needed to grow up. But that don't mean you need to take him back once he does. You're not the grass, you're the garden. And if he couldn't appreciate your beauty the first time, maybe he was never meant to enjoy your bloom. Sometimes a man pulls away not because he doesn't love you, but because he doesn't know how to deal with what he feels. Love can be overwhelming, especially for someone who's never seen it done right. If a man grew up in a home where love was either missing or messed up, chances are he never learned how to love the right way. So when he meets a woman who actually loves him, respects him, and brings him peace, he doesn't know what to do with it. It's like giving a complex machine to someone without the manual. They fumble with it, mess it up, and sometimes walk away because they think they're not built to handle it. You got to understand, a man can want you, miss you, even love you deeply, but still back off if he doesn't feel emotionally safe or capable. And here's the kicker. He might not even know he's doing it. He just feels this internal discomfort, this pressure that he can't name. Maybe it's the pressure to show up every day. Maybe it's the fear that he's going to mess things up again like he did in the past. Or maybe, deep down, he doesn't believe he deserves love like yours. When a man has low self-worth, even your compliments can make him feel uncomfortable. You tell him he's amazing, but in his head, he's thinking, she's going to see the real me eventually and leave. So, instead of sticking around and risking rejection, he disappears. He creates distance to protect himself from a pain that hasn't even happened yet. But one he's convinced is coming. This is why some men run. Not because you did something wrong, not because they stopped caring, but because being with you forced them to face parts of themselves they've been avoiding. You're holding up a mirror with your love, and that reflection is hard to look at when a man isn't ready to grow. Your presence highlights his emotional gaps, his wounds, his fears, and rather than stepping up, he steps back. Now, here's what gets confusing for most women. When he disappears, you start blaming yourself. You wonder if you were too much, too emotional, too available. But listen to me carefully. His emotional unavailability is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of his internal struggle. And until he works through that, no amount of your love can fix it. Men who are emotionally blocked often need space. Not because they want to lose you, but because they're fighting a battle inside their own head. They might even convince themselves they're doing you a favor by leaving, thinking you'll be better off without their mess. But the truth is, they're running from the responsibility that comes with being truly seen and truly loved. That kind of vulnerability is scary if you've never practiced it. And yet, despite all that, love doesn't always die during the silence. Sometimes that space becomes a pressure cooker. The more time he spends away from you, the more he thinks. The more he realizes that real love is rare. That your support, your understanding, your patience, that wasn't ordinary. that was sacred. And it's in those quiet moments, lying in bed, replaying your laughter or your last conversation, that it finally hits him. He wasn't ready, but he was lucky, and he blew it. That's why you might get that unexpected message weeks later. It's not that he just remembered you, it's that he never stopped thinking about you. He just had to confront his own fears first. He had to realize that being loved the right way requires showing up fully. And when a man figures that out, when he faces the mirror and decides to change, that's when you see the difference between a man who comes back to comfort himself and a man who comes back to commit. So don't mistake his silence as a lack of love. Sometimes it's the presence of fear. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of repeating old patterns. Fear of failing you. But that's not your fear to carry. Let him face it. Let him grow. And if he comes back with real change, not just words, you'll know. Until then, stand in your worth. Let your love be a standard, not a sacrifice. Because the right man won't run from real love. He'll rise to it. When a man sees that you've moved on or are doing just fine without him, it can shake him to his core. A lot of men operate under the assumption, sometimes even without realizing it, that you'll always be there. Maybe it's because you were always the one reaching out first, always forgiving, always showing up with that same love and energy, no matter how he treated you. So when he walks away, he does it with the confidence that he could come back whenever he wants. And you'd still be there, waiting. But something changes when you finally stop chasing, when you stop checking in, when you stop posting those sad quotes that hinted you missed him. Instead, you start glowing differently. You start focusing on your peace, your life, your goals. And that's when the silence gets loud for him. That's when it hits him that the person he thought would always be around has started healing without him. And healing is one of the most powerful forms of moving on. Because once you heal, you start to see clearly. You start to recognize patterns you used to excuse. You start to value yourself in a way you didn't before. So when he sees that you're no longer crying over him, no longer waiting for his "hey, I miss you" text, no longer checking his stories or dropping subtle hints, it confuses him. It messes with his head. He thought he had more time. He thought he had a hold on you emotionally, but the truth is you grew, and your growth creates a shift. The power dynamic changes. Now he's the one wondering what you're up to. Now he's the one scrolling through your posts, trying to decode your smile, wondering if there's someone new, wondering if he already lost his place in your life. Men often return not just because they miss you, but because they're startled by your strength. They're not used to a woman who sets herself free and actually means it. See, walking away is easy to say, but hard to do when you love someone. So when you do it, and do it for real, that's when he realizes you're not the same woman he left. You evolved. And now, if he wants another shot, he's got to approach you differently, because you're not falling for the same sweet words or temporary affection. You're not desperate for closure or desperate for love. You've learned to give that to yourself. And that right there is what confuses him. Because now he's dealing with a woman who has boundaries, a woman who won't respond to inconsistency with understanding, a woman who values peace over passion. That kind of growth demands accountability. And accountability is uncomfortable, especially for someone who got used to getting the easy version of you, the one who tolerated, explained, overextended. Your silence teaches him what your words never could. It shows him what life without you really looks like. And sometimes that's the lesson he needed all along. Not your explanations, not your tears, not your "let's talk." Just space. Space where you no longer fill in the gaps, where you no longer show up to remind him of what he had, because now he has to feel the loss for himself. He might test the waters at first, a casual message, a like on your post, trying to see if he still matters to you. But you know better now. You recognize the difference between someone who's curious and someone who's ready, between someone who misses you and someone who's ready to love you right. So when he comes back, and many do, it's up to you to ask yourself, is he here because he changed or because your silence scared him? Is he here to add peace or to disturb the one you built? Because just because a man returns doesn't mean he deserves a seat at your table again. Remember this, your growth is not a threat. It's a filter. It separates who is meant to be in your life from who is just passing through. And when a man sees that he can't just walk in and out of your life anymore, that's when you find out his true intentions. Not when he leaves, but when he sees you've truly let go. Sometimes a man comes back after no contact because of guilt, and guilt can be a powerful driver, especially when someone starts to realize just how much their actions or lack of action hurt someone who genuinely cared about them. It's like a delayed reaction. At the time he left, maybe he didn't feel much. Maybe he thought walking away was the right move. Or maybe he convinced himself that you'd be fine. But time has a funny way of revealing truth. And as the days turn into weeks and the silence stretches, that guilt begins to build. He starts to remember all the times you were there for him, emotionally, mentally, physically. How you had his back when no one else did. How you forgave him even when he didn't deserve it. How you gave love that was real, patient, deep. And suddenly, those moments start flashing back, and he starts asking himself, what did I do? It's not always immediate. Sometimes it hits him when he sees your name pop up randomly, or when he sees a couple laughing at a restaurant and remembers how you used to laugh like that. Or maybe it's when someone else tries to love him and he realizes the kind of love he had with you doesn't come easy. That's when the guilt starts growing. The guilt doesn't just come from hurting you. It comes from realizing that maybe he broke something he couldn't put back together. Maybe he mishandled a good woman. Maybe he took advantage of your kindness and now sees it wasn't weakness, it was strength. But now it's gone. And that guilt is heavy, especially when it's mixed with regret. That's when he starts reaching out. Maybe he doesn't say, "I'm sorry," right away. Sometimes men are too proud to lead with that. But his messages start sounding different. He might check in with a, "Hey, just thinking about you," or "I hope you're good." It's not always bold, but it's an attempt to open the door. Here's what's important for you to understand: that guilt is not love. Guilt is not change. Just because a man feels bad doesn't mean he's ready to be better. Sometimes guilt makes people come back just to ease their own conscience. They want to feel forgiven even if they haven't done the work to earn it. And if you're not careful, you'll take him back out of compassion, because you'll see the sadness in his eyes. You'll hear the pain in his voice. But that doesn't mean he's ready to love you the way you deserve. That's where your power lies, in knowing the difference. Guilt can bring a man back, but it can't keep him there if he hasn't healed, grown, or faced the truth about his actions. He might just hurt you again. So when he comes back and you sense that guilt is the reason, take a step back. Ask yourself, is he here to make things right or to make himself feel better? There's a big difference between a man who wants to fix the damage and one who just wants to be free from the weight of what he did. You deserve someone who returns with intention, not just emotion. Someone who comes back with a plan, not confusion. Someone who acknowledges the pain he caused and is willing to do the work, not just say the words. Letting guilt drive the reunion means you're building a relationship on shaky ground. Because as soon as the guilt fades, so might his motivation. That's why your silence is important. It gives him time to sit with what he did. It allows the guilt to teach him something if he's willing to learn. And if he's not, then the guilt was never going to turn into change anyway. So if he comes back and you feel like guilt is the engine behind his return, be kind, but be wise. Don't let his discomfort trick you into thinking he's your responsibility to fix. You did your part. You gave your love. If he broke it, it's on him to rebuild, not just reappear. And if he's only here to ease his guilt, don't let him shift the weight onto you. You're not his redemption story unless he's truly changed. Protect your peace. Guard your growth. A guilty heart might knock on your door, but that doesn't mean you have to answer. Because real love doesn't come back just to say, I feel bad. It comes back ready to do better, ready to honor what was once taken for granted. Sometimes a man comes back after no contact simply because he misses the comfort you gave him. It's not always about love, and it's not always about regret. Sometimes it's just about the space you used to fill in his life, the steady, soft, understanding presence you provided when no one else seemed to get him. See, comfort is powerful. It creates a safe zone, a space where someone feels seen, accepted, and understood. And when you take that away, that absence starts to feel bigger and bigger with each passing day. Maybe you were the one who listened when he vented about his dreams or struggles. Maybe you were the one who made life a little lighter when it felt heavy. You were probably the one who showed up consistently, caring, checking in, making sure he was okay. And in a world that can feel cold, fast, and disconnected, that kind of comfort, that's rare. That's not easily replaced. And when he leaves, when he tries to move on or forget or numb himself with distractions, he might do all right for a while, but then he hits a wall. The conversations don't feel as deep. The connection feels shallow. And suddenly, he finds himself missing what he didn't realize he needed. Men are taught to chase freedom, to chase space, to run when they feel pressure. But what they often don't understand until much later is that real comfort, the kind you gave, wasn't a trap. It was a gift. And when you're gone, when the messages stop, when your energy fades from his life, it feels like something is missing. That's when he starts to remember the little things, the late night talks, the laughs, the way you always knew what to say when he was going through it. He remembers how you gave without asking much in return. And that memory starts pulling him back. But here's where you have to be clear with yourself. Missing comfort is not the same as missing the relationship. It's not the same as wanting to build something healthy. Sometimes a man comes back because he's craving that feeling, not because he's ready to give it back. And if you let him in without recognizing that difference, you'll find yourself in the same cycle. He'll soak up your love, your support, your energy, and then disappear again once he feels full, because comfort can become a convenience to someone who hasn't matured emotionally. That's why you need to check his actions when he returns. Is he doing the work to make you feel secure, or is he just trying to feel secure himself? Is he offering you the same support you once gave him? Or is he just trying to sit in your warmth again because the world outside got cold? If he's coming back to rebuild, he won't just want the comfort. He'll want the connection. He'll want to understand what broke and how to fix it. But if he's just coming back because he misses how you made him feel, he won't talk about solutions. He'll just try to slide back into the old routine like nothing ever happened. And that's where your strength comes in. You need to recognize that your comfort is valuable. Your emotional presence is not something to be loaned out on demand. You're not a hotel for the heart, open whenever he needs a place to rest. You're a home, and if he wants to be welcomed back in, he needs to come with intention, with respect, and with the willingness to give just as much as he takes. So if a man comes back saying he misses you, listen carefully. What is it that he really misses? Is it you, or is it just how you made him feel? Because those are two very different things. And when you confuse the two, you risk giving yourself away to someone who's only halfway invested. You deserve more than to be someone's emotional crutch. You deserve to be in a relationship where the comfort is mutual, where love flows both ways, and where the emotional labor isn't one-sided. You deserve to be missed for who you are, not just for the peace you provide. So when that call or text comes in, take a breath. Don't let nostalgia or loneliness trick you into thinking his return means more than it does. Ask yourself, is he here to build? Or is he just here to feel better? Is he showing up differently? Or is he just showing up because life got hard without you? You have power in your peace. Protect it. And remember, comfort is something you created. If he misses it, he needs to show he's worthy of it. Not just now, but consistently. Because you're not the backup plan. You're not the safety net. You are the prize. And you don't hand that out just because someone remembers how good it felt to be held by you. Sometimes the reason a man returns after no contact is simple. He sees you glowing without him. He sees your strength, your peace, your growth, and it confuses him. He expected you to be broken, waiting, maybe even chasing. But instead, he sees you rising. You're out there smiling, focused, maybe working on yourself and moving forward like he never thought you would. That sight alone is powerful. It shakes him because it tells him something loud and clear. You didn't need him to be okay. And let me tell you something. When someone realizes they're not your oxygen, that they were never your lifeline, it disrupts their ego, because whether he says it or not, part of him thought you would fall apart. He might have told himself that you'd call, text, cry, or beg for answers. But when you didn't, when you went quiet and started thriving, it forced him to reflect. It made him ask, was she really ever dependent on me like I thought? That reflection doesn't sit easy, especially for someone who left thinking they had all the control. You see, healing in silence is one of the strongest messages you can send. It tells a man, I value this, but I value myself more. And when you heal without putting your pain on display, without chasing closure or validation, you take your power back. That power is magnetic. It draws people in, not because you're playing games, but because you stopped playing altogether. You stopped begging for attention, and you started giving that attention to yourself. That's when your energy shifts. That's when people notice you not because you're loud, but because you're grounded. And don't think they're not watching. Even if they're not calling, even if they're not liking your posts, they're watching. They see you. They hear about you. And the minute they hear you're doing well, that's when that "a stranger" text shows up. That's when they circle back like they never left. But here's the thing. You have to know that their return doesn't always mean growth. Sometimes it just means curiosity. They want to know how you moved on. They want to see if you still care. They want to test the water, see if that door is still open. That's why it's important to understand the difference between someone coming back out of respect and someone coming back out of insecurity. If he returns just because he sees you doing better without him, that's not love. That's ego. That's him trying to reclaim a space he walked away from. And the question becomes, does he deserve that space anymore? When he left, he thought he was the one making the decision. but your growth flipped the script. Now you hold the pen. Now it's your decision to make. Does his return align with your peace? Does it fit the person you're becoming? Or is it just a familiar distraction dressed up in mixed emotions? Let your growth be your filter. If he's not matching your energy, your effort, your clarity, then his return is just noise. You've come too far to lose yourself again in someone else's confusion. Don't shrink to make him feel big. Don't slow down so he can catch up. You're not here to be anyone's checkpoint while they figure things out. You're here to be chosen fully and intentionally. Remember this, not everyone who circles back is meant to stay. Sometimes their return is just a reminder of how far you've come. And it's okay to smile, to be kind, to acknowledge the past. But don't let that distract you from your future. The glow he's responding to, that's your healing. That's your peace. That's your power. And if he can't handle the version of you that doesn't need him, then he was never meant for the version of you that's walking in full confidence. So the next time he pops back up acting like he just missed you or wanted to check in, ask yourself, is he returning to love me, or is he returning because he can't stand to watch me love myself? That answer will tell you everything you need to know